Hello, everybody. I am going to try to talk about politics without getting political. And I do these videos without any editing or any script, so if you can, kind of bear with me. I've got a lot of questions lately about the upcoming elections and how it might affect the stock market. And it can, and it most likely in the short run will have some effect on stocks. We may be seeing that now, as a matter of fact. There might be a sense in the marketplace that Biden's going to win, and I think you're seeing maybe the stocks sell off a little bit in anticipation of that. That's possibly what's going on now, and we'll see how that plays out over the next several weeks before the election. But let's talk a little bit about history. In general, it hasn't mattered much whether the president is a Democrat or a Republican. It matters maybe to you politically, but in terms of the stock market performance, it hasn't mattered much. As a matter of fact, if you go back over the last 30, 40 years, if you go back to Carter, Clinton, and Obama, kind of versus Reagan, the two Bushes, and Trump, actually under the Democrats, the markets have performed a little better. Now that can be distorted, as we know, in 1999 and early 2000, George Bush takes office, and what does he walk right into is a dot-com bubble that bursts, and stocks tumble, 9/11 happens, Enron happens, WorldCom happens, and all kinds of things that he didn't have anything to do with. So it can be serendipitous, but in general, it doesn't really matter if the administration is Democrat or Republican. Oftentimes in the first couple of years of a new administration, stocks don't do as good as they do in the second half of the administration. That's kind of historically been playing out too. But let's just go with that. In the long run, it probably doesn't matter. In the short run, certainly there can be some volatility. And that's usually based on economic outlook, and tax policy can affect that. So under a Biden administration, if it looks like Biden's going to win, there's probably going to be some tax changes, and one might be the capital gains tax. So that could as much as double from where it is now. That might affect decision-making process of investors in the short run. Some folks might want to take some profits before the end of the year if they think that capital gains taxes are going up next year. So that would make sense. But how much does that affect the market? It's hard to say, because probably 75 to 80% of stocks are actually owned by institutions. So, will you and I deciding to take a profit before year end be enough volume, so to speak, to really affect the markets? I don't know that. But remember, markets are emotional too, and markets do things. You remember the night of the Trump election, in the futures overnight, they were down the limit, just thinking, well, my God, the world's going to come to an end. Well, by the next morning, they recovered all that, and stocks actually opened up and went up. So it's really hard to try to handicap exactly what's going to happen in the election. I think it'd be easier to just watch what happens between now and the election. If stocks continue to go down, for instance, that might be discounting in like a Biden victory and tax changes, et cetera, et cetera. If markets rally, thinking perhaps maybe that Trump's going to win, that could set up for a downturn should he lose. So I think the market will tell us what it is expecting and maybe how we should look at it. But we're investing, again, as we always say, for our family's future. This election will have some immediate impact. It will affect people in terms of how they feel about things. But in the long run, the markets do what the markets do, and economies do what they do. And we don't want to change how we are planning for our futures simply because of what happens on election night. We didn't want to do it 4 years ago, and we're not going to do it now. So we're going to stay focused. We're going to be aware of what's happening. Things might change. Under a Biden administration, some things would do better than others, And under a Trump second term, some things would do better than others. It's okay to know and identify those type of things. But to make kind of just total, I'm going to get out or I'm going in or whatever kind of decisions, we don't want to do that at this point. We simply want to get through this time. It's going to be volatile. It's going to be emotional. We'll get through it. We always do. We'll see how it plays out. And I got a feeling that the market's going to tell us a lot more here in the next few weeks. So stay tuned. We'll stay with you and do more videos, and you always get the emails too. So we'll stay in touch. Have a good one. Thanks.